know?
I hear voices in my head. They counsel me. They understand. They talk to me.
Welcome to episode 5 of RKO. You didn't know? Hey, I'm Kayvon, and here's Russell. Say hi, Russell.
Hello.
We are so excited to have you with us. Thank you for joining us for our epic 5th episode. Hey, you know what? Russell and I attended a WWE live event, also known as a house show, which means an untelevised WWE event in Dayton, Ohio, on September 6th, just a couple weeks ago at the Nutter Center. We had a great time. We talked about how many champions, and John Cena was at our show. We really had a great roster at our show. Russell, how did you feel about the house show we went to in Dayton?
Well, I really enjoyed it. It's not like the Raw or the SmackDown where they have all the pyro and have all the cameras and everything. The one thing I did notice that they do a lot more of is wrestling. They give the wrestlers a lot more time to develop their match. We did get basically all the champions on there. We got the tag team champions. We got the U.S. title defended. We got a special Divas match that we weren't expecting. And, of course, we had John Cena there at the end. And then there was a dark match at the end following John Cena between myself and Kayvon. We were posing for the audience there, and I tried to do a heel turn and choke slam Kayvon, and for my troubles, I got the big RKO, which I did kick out of.
Well, that's what you claim. I was surprised by the choke slam, so I had to counter with an RKO. Now, of course, there are no pictures to prove that Russell kicked out before the count of 3, but that's the story we'll go with, Russell. Also, we got NXT guys at our house show, which I was looking forward to. I follow NXT. I watch it on the WWE Network. Hey, and if you don't have the WWE Network, you can get the WWE Network for how much, Russell?
$9.99.
Oh, $9.99. That's right. We might as well work for the company. We're so good at promoting the WWE Network. NXT guys were great. We had the NXT champion Adrian Neville versus Tyler Breeze. Adrian Neville has a great finishing move, which is like 2 360 flips off the top turnbuckle under his opponent. And actually, the NXT guys, Adrian Neville and Tyler Breeze, who were at our house show, along with Sami Zayn and Tyson Kidd, were on Raw promoting the NXT TakeOver match. And Russell, you were so impressed by the NXT champion Adrian Neville's finisher, that big flip off the top turnbuckle, you rewound your TV and watched it a couple times, right?
Yeah, I was very impressed. I was glad to see that they actually gave these guys an opportunity to be on Raw, which for the fans that don't have the network or do not follow NXT, it gives you the opportunity to get to know these guys that they're bringing up on the rosters. And it really helped Raw that week. We had the Jerry Springer saga 2 weeks ago with the Bellas, and Raw said they were doing their kickoff for the new season, which I didn't understand, but it was a great Raw. They promoted more rivalries on Raw 2 weeks ago. We got to see a little bit more development between Mark Henry and Rusev. They also promoted the Bray Wyatt Big Show match. And then we had the John Cena and Paul Heyman talk and hopefully a heel turn of John Cena. And the John Cena Paul Heyman segment reminded me so much of Star Wars, where Paul Heyman seemed to be playing the Emperor, wanting to turn Anakin Skywalker to the dark side and telling him that the only way that you're going to beat the beast is if you become the beast yourself. And after watching it, I was so intrigued of what they're going to do with John Cena. Are they going to tease that heel turn? They tease it again this Monday night with Paul Heyman, contemplating what John Cena needed to do to beat Brock Lesnar. And if you didn't watch Raw a couple weeks ago, John Cena gave Paul Heyman the ultimatum. Either you produce Brock Lesnar Monday night or you're going to fight me. And that led to this Monday night with Paul Heyman and John Cena starting off Raw in a segment where John Cena basically took Paul Heyman and kidnapped him, stuck him in the locker room, and the great Khali became the bodyguard. And basically he had to stand there until he produced Brock Lesnar.
Now,
so what were your thoughts on that?
Well, explain to our listeners also. You brought up a good point when we had talked earlier about this segment. I didn't understand what John Cena was saying when he was referring to if Paul Heyman didn't produce Brock Lesnar by halftime, and I wasn't sure if he was referring to halftime of the halfway point of Raw, and I didn't really understand why he was referring to that, because he ended up bringing Paul Heyman back out, giving him one last chance to produce Paul Heyman or Brock Lesnar before John Cena was going to fight Paul Heyman. So that wasn't halfway through the show. So explain to our listeners what your theory was about John Cena using the terminology of halftime on last night's Raw.
Well, for those of you that surf the channels, you have the NFL that is kicking off, and they had a Monday night game, and John Cena kind of played to those individuals that like to flip the channels between Raw and the NFL. So what he was saying was, look, at halftime, basically, if you're watching the football game, you can come back to us when halftime kicks off, and you'll pretty much be where our segment is going to be between me and Paul Heyman, and you may see Brock Lesnar. So I think that was smart advertising on the WWE, because basically 10 o'clock comes rolling around, and those people that were flipping back and forth between the football game and the wrestling, they probably stayed with the wrestling, because at 10 o'clock, here comes John Cena, Paul Heyman down the ring. They have a little scuffle. Paul Heyman, tells him, if you hit me, you're going to be the bully. You're going to be everything that you seem that you don't want to be, even though I keep telling you this is what you're going to have to do to beat Brock Lesnar. He even brings up about John Cena's mom and John Cena not having the testicle fortitude to beat Brock Lesnar, which got John Cena a little bit upset, and he gave Paul Heyman the big shove out of the ring. He shoved him
out of the ring. That's right.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you get the Beast in Carnage, Brock Lesnar, heading down to the ring, and there was the stare down. John Cena seemed like he was, really ready to take on the Beast this time, which, I don't know why he wasn't the first time, but, he looked like he wasn't as intimidated. And we get a little scuffle between John Cena and Brock Lesnar. Now, one thing I did notice is that when Brock Lesnar did hit the ring, Cena jumped on him quickly, but Brock Lesnar, within a few seconds, gave John Cena the big suplex outside the ring.
Reminiscent of their crowd. Right, reminiscent of their SummerSlam match where Brock Lesnar gave John Cena 16 belly-to-back suplexes. And John Cena took that suplex hard last night. He did, but that being said, he showed more fight in him than he did in their SummerSlam match. So, it makes it seem like their rematch at Night of Champions this Sunday won't be as lopsided. John Cena's going to have a little bit more offense trying to get back that title.
couple of things that I seen from the last 2 weeks. We had the big cage match that started off Raw last week.
On the quote season premiere episode, right?
Yeah, on the season premiere. We had the big cage match between Chris Jericho and Bray Wyatt.
That's right, yeah.
Jericho was up on the top of the cage, and he did the big move there, and it looked like he hurt his leg. And Bray Wyatt took advantage of that. Of course, Bray Wyatt ended up winning that match.
And that was their blow-off match, really. We were expecting to get the third Bray Wyatt-Chris Jericho match at Night of Champions, but instead they opened their season premiere Raw with that steel cage match, and now Jericho has moved on. Well, in that same night when he was in the trainer's room, he was attacked by Randy Orton. Randy Orton took offense to some words that Jericho had for Orton the week prior, I believe, in their big segment where they had the Authority in the ring and Jericho and Roman and Cena. And so Randy Orton hopped into a feud with Jericho. And does this feud, and I know Jericho, from what I've read, will be leaving WWE for a while after Night of Champions. Did this feud seem like just a throw-together feud?
It did, but the more I've thought about it, it probably is best to do it this way because we had talked about Mark Henry and Rusev having their little feud. And where did it leave the Big Show? The Big Show was his tag partner. And I think the WWE seen an opportunity and went with it. Okay, we have Bray Wyatt and Chris Jericho. They start the match. They start Raw. And they basically can end their feud. And at the same time, we can take a wrestler like Jericho who's going to be leaving, and we can kind of put him with Randy Orton to start that. And that leaves Bray Wyatt with no opponent. But guess what? They end up taking Bray Wyatt and kind of playing over with the Big Show. Right. Now the Big Show still has somebody that he's going to compete against. And now you don't have to worry about, I thought Mark Henry and Big Show were going to be a tag team there. Now it kind of makes sense because now you have Bray Wyatt as an opponent, Chris Jericho has an opponent, and, of course, Mark Henry has Rusev as the opponent. So it kind of worked out there, by giving Randy Orton somebody to wrestle and having him on the card because, he is a great wrestler, he is a great worker, and he is a big name. So I think, it kind of worked out to their advantage with furthering the Jericho, Randy Orton, with him going and attacking Jericho there in the training room. I did also enjoy the Jerry Springer segment with the Bellas. Anytime you get Jerry Springer on television, that makes for good TV.
Jerry.
It seemed like it did take that Bella saga, the drama, and kind of bring it full circle. And once again, they had a lot more wrestling the last 2 weeks than they did backstage segments, which we had talked about, hoping that they would do. The last Monday night ended with the cage coming down, trapping Roman Reigns inside with Kane, Randy Orton, and Seth Rollins. I don't know if you caught this, but when the cage was coming down, there was a couple of close spots there where Roman Reigns was throwing people outside the ring, and that cage was still coming down. I thought there for a second that Seth Rollins wasn't going to make it inside that cage.
Well, and I think there was a moment where Seth Rollins tried to hop back in as the cage was coming down, and there was a spike that goes into like the post that stands on the ground that was coming down like right on Seth Rollins. I mean, it was close, yeah.
But the Raw ended pretty good. I really enjoyed that Raw. And then, of course, we had this week's Raw. We had not the John Cena, Brock Lesnar ending the show, which you would think that the champion would be the one that ends the show for the night. Or
this was the last Raw before Night of Champions, too. That's the big thing. This is your selling last chance, besides SmackDown, really, on TV to sell Night of Champions to your fans.
And it points out that the WWE knows that Brock Lesnar, being the champion, he's not going to be on TV. He's not going to be on Raw that often. So, like we've talked about before, they've got to sell these other mid-card wrestlers and build up these other guys to carry the show. And I think by them allowing the main event of Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns, which was a pay-per-view match this Sunday, to happen, and then having the end of the Raw be Rusev and Mark Henry, that kind of telling you that they're putting the show, the most important part of the show, on these mid-carders, that they're not going to rely on John Cena and Brock Lesnar selling the pay-per-view. And I think, in my opinion, this pay-per-view, this lineup, and we're going to talk about it here in a minute, is a lot better match-wise than what SummerSlam was. I'm more intrigued, and maybe it's because WWE wanted to, get the people that have the network that they got for how much?
$9.99.
Perhaps they want those people to renew, and what better way than to stack this card? And this is a heck of a card that they've got for Night of Champions. Anything that you've seen that from Raw the last 2 weeks that you were impressed with?
Yeah, I mean, I was. There are several things. I guess Raw, especially last night, left me with more questions than comments. I felt last night. First of all, I'll go ahead and say the closing segment last night, like we talked about, it puzzled me. I mean, just because for whatever reason, I'm not getting the sense that the Mark Henry-Rusev feud is, to me, it's not even as strong as the Jack Swagger-Rusev feud. I understand USA versus Russia, they're driving that point home, but for your go-home show for Night of Champions, I would have expected to see Brock Lesnar versus John Cena in your closing segment with their brawl. But when you brought it up about your channel switchers, you got a guy watching football, and it's halftime, and he wants to turn on to Raw, and it's your 10 o'clock time slot. It's your 10 o'clock hour. At 10 o'clock, he's going to see what he wants to see, and that's your biggest feud, Brock Lesnar and John Cena brawling in and outside the ring. So that made sense to me when you brought that up. It'll be an interesting match, a Night of Champions between Rusev and Mark Henry, but you're right. Whether or not it was a timing thing with the football game, or if it was just they have a little more faith in the Rusev-Henry feud, whatever the case may be, it does add a little more oomph to the Mark Henry-Rusev feud for sure. Another thing that puzzled me last night on Raw, you got Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins in a match this Sunday at Night of Champions, and then you have the match for free on Raw last night with Roman Reigns getting a clean victory. Now, Roman Reigns has been trying to get his hands on Seth Rollins ever since the split of the Shield. All night on Raw, they were kind of flashing back to Seth Rollins, turning his back on the Shield. Seth Rollins stomping Dean Ambrose through the concrete, all this stuff. It seems like, they should just be building that and promoting it for your match on Sunday. But they had the match, Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, last night, and we're going to have it again on Sunday. Now, Russell, give me an explanation. Why do you think they had Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins last night as your last match on Raw before the final segment with Rusev and Mark Henry, and then giving Rusev the clean victory?
Well, there's three things. One, I think that they're wanting to take these guys that are mid-carders, the Seth Rollins, the Roman Reigns. They're wanting to give them the money hour, the 10 to 11 slot, to show that they can carry the show without John Cena, Brock Lesnar. That's the one thing. It gives them the opportunity to be on that money hour. Second, I think that you may see Dean Ambrose make his return, either this Sunday or maybe even on SmackDown. That hasn't been decided yet. And third, it gives Roman Reigns, because he did win cleanly, he can then dictate to Seth Rollins a stipulation of the match. He can say, hey, I already beat you. I beat you on Raw. I got my revenge. You know, you wanting another piece of me, put the briefcase on the line. And then it gives me a reason to basically go at you again. It would be more intriguing if the briefcase is on the line.
Do you think that's Roman's into getting into the world title picture? Maybe holding on to that briefcase if it was on the line and if he won it until WrestleMania, and then finally saying, hey, I'm going to cash in at WrestleMania, or it would have to be beforehand, I would imagine, because you would still have the Royal Rumble. Okay, what I'm trying to say is, let's say that this Sunday, Seth Rollins' Money in the Bank briefcase is on the line, or any time before the Royal Rumble, and either Roman Reigns wins it or Dean Ambrose wins it. Now, do those guys hold on to it until next June, which is when Seth Rollins won it? So I would assume they would still have the full year to cash it in, or do they say, hey, the Royal Rumble winner is challenging the WWE World Heavyweight Champion at WrestleMania, and so am I. Let's make it a triple threat match like we had last year at WrestleMania. So basically my question is if Roman Reigns becomes a Money in the Bank briefcase holder, where does he go from there? I mean, because I always pictured him challenging Brock Lesnar in the main event of WrestleMania for the title.
I think it all depends on where they're going to go with the Cena-Lesnar saga, is what I'm pretty much saying anymore. How long is Lesnar going to be staying in the company? That's one of the questions that I have. Is he going to be there till WrestleMania? Is he going to be at every pay-per-view? Or is he going to, have another pay-per-view here and then be gone for a couple months and then come back at WrestleMania? What are they going to do with Cena? Is Cena being breaded down to that heel turn that I hope happens? I see Roman Reigns kind of like I seen Edge. He's getting the pops. The crowd is behind him. The one thing they did with Edge is that they didn't want to have Edge win against the champion cleanly. So the best thing they did was they took Edge, they gave him the Money in the Bank, they had him pin the champion after the match.
But he was heel, though, and Roman's face, though. Do you think they would turn Roman heel?
No, because I think
he's the next face of the company.
Right, and you have these pay-per-views coming up. You have the Elimination Chamber coming up. You have TLC coming up. You have the Hell in a Cell coming up. If he is going to be the face of the company, as they're hoping that he will become, him taking the Money in the Bank and cashing it in on Cena or on Lesnar, I still think that it would not hurt his character. It would not hurt his fan base. I think that he could get over on both of them. They've had the tease there a couple times with Cena, him, facing Cena, and he's basically said when Cena had the title, I'm not scared of you. I'll challenge you too. We've had a face versus face many times before, Ultimate Warrior, Hulk Hogan. So what would be great to see is if they did put the Money on the Bank contract up for grabs between Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns wins. He now has the briefcase. It makes it more intriguing for him to have the briefcase because he could cash in on Brock Lesnar. In fact, he could cash in on Brock Lesnar after John Cena and Brock Lesnar's match. He could also, if he still wanted to be the good guy, he could tell Cena, I've got the briefcase now, and you better watch your back. And, at any time they wanted, they could pull the trigger on John Cena, Roman Reigns. They could set that up. I just think the briefcase right now being with Seth Rollins it just doesn't make sense. I don't see him cashing in.
Well, because he's not going to cash it in on Brock Lesnar. That's the thing.
No, he's not.
Unless, I can't even think of any scenario where he would do that. And I just thought of something as you were talking. I think everyone, including myself, and I've said this time and time again, I'm expecting Brock Lesnar as the champ going into WrestleMania, Roman Reigns, however he gets there, winning the Royal Rumble, whatever the case may be, challenging Brock Lesnar in the main event and winning the title. However, let's say Brock Lesnar isn't going to work from now until WrestleMania, even though he's not working nearly at all a full schedule. But let's say he drops the title. Let's say he does. Let's say he drops the title to Cena Sunday, or at Cena at Hell in a Cell, or to someone else, a cash-in by Seth Rollins. Let's say the Authority is afraid that Brock Lesnar is unstoppable, so they make it every effort to get that title off of Brock, and they do. They do. Seth Rollins eventually cashes in, and he's your champion. What are the odds? And we've talked about this, and we've never got it. That triple threat match for the WWE World Heavyweight Championship at WrestleMania, your main event, even if it's not the last match on the card, it's for your title. The 3 Shield members going at it for that title at WrestleMania. If that be the case, you could have a match that closes the show, another Undertaker match, a John Cena match, whatever it is, your Sting match, maybe even. Do you think that's a possibility that those 3 could be going at it for the title at WrestleMania in a triple threat?
It could, if they build up these guys correctly. And by doing so, giving them the TV time to allow them to continue to develop their character. And
it'd have to be a strong build between now and then to get all those 3 guys in your mind, like going for the title. They're strong, right?
Yeah, you look at Seth Rollins. He's beaten Kane cleanly. He's beaten Seth Rollins cleanly. He's beaten Randy Orton cleanly.
You mean Roman Reigns, right?
Right. I'm sorry.
Right.
Roman Reigns has beaten
Roman Reigns, right?
Randy Orton. He's beaten Seth Rollins. He's beaten Kane. He's getting the cheers. What would be the best case scenario? But we know WWE will probably never do this. But what would be the best case scenario would be for John Cena to basically heel turn at Night of Champions, and it's been pushed for the last couple weeks with Heyman getting in his ear. Him beating Brock Lesnar by a screw job with Paul Heyman. And earlier in the night, you get Roman Reigns beating Seth Rollins for the Money in the Bank title. Now Roman Reigns has the opportunity to take on the champion at any time. You have a heel, John Cena. Brock Lesnar is out of the picture for the next couple months. It now gives John Cena's character, a more of a likability because he has turned, and then you get the Roman Reigns character is now your number 1 face.
Mm-hmm.
He's right to go against John Cena. They did it with The Rock. They've done it with Triple H. And if it doesn't work out, you could always have Hulk Hogan come in and tell John Cena, you made a bad choice. Let me take you back over to the good side. Even Hulk Hogan's done it. Will it happen? Probably not. I would love to see Roman Reigns get the Money in the Bank because I think he could do more with it than what Seth Rollins can.
Well, it would at least be believable that Roman Reigns could potentially cash in on Brock Lesnar, and that's part of the difference, right? Because especially with Seth Rollins being with the Authority and being a heel, and being his size, really, I mean, unless it was a cash in after a brutal match, which I don't really know who's going to beat down Brock Lesnar to the point where Seth Rollins feels like it's a good time to cash in. I don't think John Cena's doing it anytime soon. He certainly didn't at SummerSlam. So that would make sense there. But, but maybe not. Maybe Seth Rollins has that title until next June. Or, I'm sorry, has the Money in the Bank briefcase until next June, which is, he won it this June, so he has a year. He won it at the end of June this year. And so he has until that time next year to cash in. So maybe the Money in the Bank briefcase doesn't even get into the picture until after whatever happens at WrestleMania. But here's my thing. Could you see Brock Lesnar losing the title to anybody before WrestleMania, or do you think he holds that title till WrestleMania, like I believe?
It all depends on how they bring up these other guys. As it stands right now, and we've talked about this, the only one that I could see vying against Brock Lesnar is John Cena. Do I want to see another John Cena-Brock Lesnar match after this pay-per-view if John Cena loses? No.
Not even in Hell in a Cell?
Not unless they've changed his character around, or they develop it into where where he is going to do that heel turn, because it's kind of being the same match over again.
Right.
We have usually, and I hate to say this, but WWE has done this before with making the title match end in a no contest, either by interference by another wrestler or by both guys not being able to finish.
Which you hate to see at a pay-per-view. I mean, you hate to see it at a pay-per-view.
Before.
It has.
And if they know that in the next month that they're not going to have anyone that is going to go against Brock Lesnar other than Cena, this pay-per-view could end in a no contest. You might not see another winner if they figure that they're going to get another match out of Brock Lesnar at Hell in a Cell. I hope that's not what happens, but they've done it before.
Right.
The other thing is that if that does happen, where it ends in a no contest, that gives us another month for Paul Heyman to be in John Cena's ear about, I've told you, you're not going to beat Brock Lesnar. You didn't beat him at SummerSlam. You didn't beat him at Night of Champions. The only way that you're going to beat him is to go down that dark path, and what better way than to do it at Hell in a Cell?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, that gives another month.
Right, and I think that's exactly what you'll see. Now, how much of an edge Cena gains between after Night of Champions through Hell in a Cell, how much can Paul Heyman get into his head? It would be interesting, but I do think you're going to get Cena, Lesnar, Hell in a Cell for the title 3 times in a row. I do, because I don't think they're going to pull the trigger on Roman yet and put him in that title match with Brock Lesnar. I think they're saving that. I really think they're saving that for WrestleMania, unless Daniel Bryan comes back early, which I don't think. The earliest I've heard about him coming back is December. And, I mean, he could be an opponent for Brock Lesnar. I just think it could be a bad thing, too. And I heard Stone Cold talk about this on his podcast. He says it could be a mistake bringing Bryan back in December, because think about it. If you're setting up Roman Reigns as your top face and he's on his way to the main event at WrestleMania, Bryan could come back and be so hot with the fans and the crowd could be going nuts for him that guess what? All of a sudden they don't want to see Roman Reigns in the main event anymore. They want Daniel Bryan back with the title, So that has to be done very carefully. But other than Daniel Bryan coming back or CM Punk coming back, it's not happening. But I think Roman Reigns is your top babyface heading into WrestleMania, and it'll be interesting to see if they keep Dean Ambrose face. If you don't get Brock Lesnar or John Cena in a Hell in a Cell next month for the title, I think you're looking at Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Hell in a Cell. Okay, we've talked about our experience at the house show. We had a great time. We had a great post-match that never ended because Russell kicked out before 3 after the RKO. We talked about Raw the past couple weeks. Russell, let's go match by match for Night of Champions this Sunday in Nashville. I want your predictions. Let's start with the triple threat match for the Divas Championship. Paige defending her title against AJ and Nikki. I was a little surprised they didn't add Brie to this match and make it a fatal four-way. However, looks like it's going to be a triple threat unless on SmackDown or the day of Brie's added to the match. What's your prediction for the Divas Championship triple threat in Night of Champions?
I think that with how they've been developing this storyline with Nikki Bella, I think Brie Bella is probably going to take a little bit more time off to be with Daniel Bryan until he fully recovers. I think they're going to award Nikki Bella the championship. I don't see him pushing this storyline like they have been and not giving her the opportunity to become the champion. I think with Paige and AJ Lee, and we of course know that AJ Lee, after her contract is over, probably will not re-sign, or at least will probably take time off. That will leave Paige without an opponent. So I think that what you're going to end up seeing is probably Paige and AJ Lee, they're going to concentrate on one another, and I think Nikki is going to steal the win. And you never know. It may be because Brie Bella helps her win to keep face. To say, hey, I'm your sister, and sisters, I'm repaying you for everything that I did, and I'm truly sorry. And what better way to make amends than to help her win the title? You can still have the Paige AJ Lee without the title going at it, but it also sets up Nikki Bella being awarded for these past segments. I don't think Stephanie McMahon would put this much TV time on the Bellas without having a plan. And what better way than to have Nikki Bella as your Diva champion, and she's out there promoting Total Divas. Hey, I'm the Total Divas. Come, Sunday nights, you can watch me. I'm the champion. It promotes the show. It promotes her as an individual wrestler. And it furthers the storyline between her and her sister. So I'm going with Nikki Bella.
I could totally see that happening. It totally makes sense with the Total Divas situation and everything. However, like you said, with AJ leaving whenever her contract's up, I see Brie, if she's not in the match, costing Nikki the match, actually. Kind of the opposite of what you said. And, however, Nikki doesn't win the match and then blames Brie, they continue their feud without the title. I believe Paige will retain the championship and move on to her next opponent, whether it be another one-on-one match with AJ or whoever it may be. Tag team championship match. The Usos, the tag champs, they've been champs since March, going against Gold and Stardust, or, as Russell likes to call them,
Gold Star.
Gold Star. Who are you picking for the tag title match?
I'm going with my favorite chili, Gold Star Chili.
Gold Star Chili. I know you love Gold Star Chili, and you love Gold and Stardust. So you think they're walking away with the titles of Night of Champions, right?
I believe they are. I think they should have done this a while ago when they won their jobs back. They should have put them together with this kind of gimmick. The Gold Dust and Cody Rhodes. Even though they were brothers, it just didn't work. And I think this tag team kind of works. So the crowd is for them. And I think they've been really pushing the Uso, leg injury. So I think that, that's going to show up they're going to take advantage of that, and you're going to get new tag team champions.
I agree. I also agree with, and I think it would have been nice to see them as tag champs, right after they got their jobs back last fall. But, now's as good time as ever, better now than never, because they got the new heel turn for them going, and, Cody Rhodes is now Stardust. So I'd like to see it. I like them as a team, and it gives the Usos something to fight for. They're the fan favorites, and, of course, a lot of people like Gold Star. But Usos, as the faces, should be fighting for something, and maybe that's getting their titles back. So I agree. New tag champs at Night of Champions. Okay, United States Championship match. Now, we both agreed that this was the match of the night at our house show we went to in Dayton on September 6th. Sheamus, the U.S. champion, versus Cesaro. These two guys are believable brawlers. Like, when they go at it hard. Who are you picking to walk away with the U.S. title, Night of Champions?
Well, the only reason I'm going to go with this person to retain their title is because I think it's going to be set up later on down the line, if not next month, for him to be challenged by Rusev. But I think that Sheamus will retain his title, and the Cesaro saga will end, and Sheamus will then be challenged by Rusev. I think it's time for Rusev to start getting in that title picture, especially after, in my prediction, that he will defeat Mark Henry. And so I think that Sheamus wins over Cesaro, retains his championship, and it will set up his next feud with the Russian.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And like we've been saying for a while now, with Rusev with that U.S. title, man, that you want to bring real more heat, a lot more heat to Rusev, get that U.S. title on him. And I could definitely see them doing that. And he'll probably be going up against the face to take that title away from. And if they keep Sheamus the face, it would totally make sense to keep the title on Sheamus a bit longer until Rusev takes it away from him. So I agree. I say Sheamus retains at Night of Champions. Okay, the Intercontinental Championship match. Dolph Ziggler, your champion, probably with R. Ziggler, who is R-Truth dressed in Dolph Ziggler gear in his corner, versus The Miz with Damien Mizdow, who is Damien Sandow, as The Miz's stunt double. Ziggler retains. What are you thinking?
Oh, I look at this feud, and I think they've kind of made a joke out of the Intercontinental title by taking these guys and having stunt doubles with them. I know you were saying that you watched the main event and that they had a heck of a tag team match.
They did.
Between one another. I just think they, for some reason, do not feel that Ziggler can stand on his own without having some type of gimmick or somebody working with him to put him over. And I just wish they would give him a more serious role and let him shine, which I think he could, without all the hoopla behind it. Next thing you know, they're going to put the bunny with him. So I want Ziggler to come out and win and show us a strong showing. I could see a little comedy in this match with the other two guys that will be involved. But I still think Ziggler retains. It may even set up a Damien Sandow costing Miz the match, or you may even get, for whatever craziness, you may even get Sandow pinning Ziggler and winning the title, and the ref saying, you're not the Miz, and him saying, yeah, I am the Miz. I could see something crazy like that happening.
Right.
Since the commentary from last night, they kept making comments of who was in the ring, and they kept saying, no, that's not our Ziggler, that's Ziggler, or that's not the Miz, that's Damien Sandow. You know, they kept
Right.
acting like getting each other mixed up. You know,
Right.
saying, well, this guy's got a beard, he doesn't. So, you know, if they really want to play on it, they could even have him shave his beard and even be more like the Miz. So, for comedy purposes, I think it will be a good match. But I do see Ziggler retaining the title.
Well, and I agree about Ziggler retaining the title. However, you know, and I agree with you. I could kind of do without the comedy and kind of see, you know, would want to see Ziggler on his own, you know. But and you're right. Like I mentioned, they had a great match on Main Event tonight, great tag match, which was a rematch from Raw, except this time The Miz and Mizdow won the match instead of Ziggler and Ziggler. You know, it's a good thing. Ziggler's got a title. He's on TV. He's getting wins. And so it's better than him losing every time we saw him, which is what we got used to, and him not really being involved with any title. So he may be on his way to better places, and we can only cross our fingers and hope that's the case, because we all love Ziggler. We love watching him. He sells like nobody's business. Probably not the best on the mic, but he's certainly not bad by any means on the mic. So it could be a good match, entertaining, you know, we hope, and we'll see what happens, but I agree, Ziggler retains at Night of Champions. Now, okay, another thing we talked about a lot, but who were you picking? Mark Henry, Rusev, it's got to be Rusev, right?
Yes, no doubt. Rusev, I believe, wins, and, you know, he has more to lose if he doesn't win. They've built his character up to be this unstoppable person. He's getting the heel heat, and, you know, I believe Mark Henry understands that, you know, he basically can put this guy over and not lose anything by doing so. You may see interference by Lana, which would be pretty good if we finally seen Lana get into a little bit of action, and, you know, somehow distract Mark Henry. You know, the other night, when they had the arm wrestling, she kind of got involved there with throwing the powder into Mark Henry's face. So I kind of like that. It reminded me of the old 80s of Mr. Fuji doing that. So, you know, maybe we get to play on that, and Rusev wins, but he doesn't win cleanly, but he does win because of interference. And then that sets him up for hopefully his title run for the U.S. title.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with you. I think Rusev, whether or not, you know, by which means he wins, I see him winning against Henry. Hey, here you go. The rematch from Raw last night. Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns. Roman beat him clean on Raw. Now, we don't know, like you said, if there's going to be a stipulation added, Money in the Bank, briefcase on the line, something else, interference by Dean Ambrose. We don't know. Now, you said it, and I agree with you, that after, you know, having that clean victory Roman got over Seth Rollins, something could very well happen with the match where it gets changed up or something, considering they most likely wouldn't just do that same match with the same result again at Night of Champions. It really wouldn't make any sense. I mean, it didn't make sense to me when I saw the match last night. But, you know, I'll wait and see till Night of Champions, see what happens. But briefcase on the line, whether or not, I still think with them trying to build Roman Reigns, he's getting a win at Night of Champions.
I agree. I think Roman Reigns, you know, you may see the emergence of Dean Ambrose come back, which could set up something. If there is a stipulation where the Money in the Bank is on the line, I definitely think Roman Reigns wins it. You could also see, if there is no stipulation, you could see Seth Rollins end up winning, and then they have their rubber match at Hell in a Cell. Now, that would be one that I'd be excited to see. These two guys put on a great match every time. They've done some crazy spots with chairs, you know, being suplexed on chairs, and the high spots that they did with the cage. So, what better way to continue this feud, and it could go either way. I would hope that if it's for the Money in the Bank, you have Roman Reigns win. If there's no stipulation, then it could play over to a Hell in a Cell rubber match between the two. So my call is Roman Reigns, but I wouldn't be disappointed to see either one of them win. But I'm going with Roman Reigns.
I agree. Definitely Roman Reigns. And it'll be interesting to see how Dean Ambrose plays into this Night of Champions. I believe he was filming a movie, so I believe he's set to come back on Raw the night of Night of Champions, but that doesn't mean he won't be at Night of Champions. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays into this feud and where Roman goes from here. And I'll end with a question about Roman here in a minute. Also, we have our Jericho-Randy Orton kind of throw together feud, and this, like I said, probably will be Jericho's last appearance in WWE for a while. He only works kind of several months at a time, kind of like Rob Van Dam does, and then takes off. He also has a band, Fozzy. He does a few other things, so he likes to work that schedule, and he's been wrestling a lot of years. So probably for Jericho's last match, my prediction is against Randy Orton. He beats him, but Randy Orton, hey, can't handle the loss, and he just takes out Chris Jericho afterwards. Jericho's got an injury, and that's why we don't see him for the next 3 to 6 months. What do you think?
Well, I see where you're going with that because he has taken the time off. I think it would hurt Randy Orton more by him losing to Jericho than for him to go ahead and beat Jericho cleanly and maybe having Jericho not be able to finish the match. I think that makes Randy Orton look a little stronger, because he told Triple H, you're going to start seeing the old Randy Orton. So I could see it go both ways with Jericho and Randy Orton. I would prefer, as a wrestling fan, to see the person leaving to lose and leave, not to win and leave. It makes that person who's staying a lot easier to get back over with the crowd. So I say Randy Orton wins, and I think that there is an injury that happens to Jericho that puts him out for the next couple months, so they have a storyline there. Perhaps, it's to the point where Jericho can't even finish the match, and they award Randy Orton the match. That way, Randy Orton, looks a lot stronger. If he totally demolishes Jericho and becomes that Viper that he was a couple of years ago, then, that's another person that they can build up to challenge for the title if they want to do that. But I'm going with Randy Orton. Winning.
Okay, and I'm going with Jericho with the beat down after the match. Even if Orton wins, Jericho still may get a beat down after the match. Final match on the card: Lesnar Cena, WWE World Title. Lesnar, right?
I'm still going with Brock Lesnar. I think it'll be a better match. There'll be more offense by John Cena. You may get the sense there if, that Paul Heyman starts getting in his head. And, my thing with Cena and Lesnar is that if they're going to continue to build these two guys pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view, it kind of reminds me of the CM Punk and John Cena feud where they kept every pay-per-view, that's what you were getting. And nothing was changing. And it got to the point where it's like, oh, okay, we just seen this, 30 days ago. So I think that if they're going to do it and have Lesnar retain, which I believe he will do so, I do think you might see John Cena start going, maybe more aggressive than what he usually has been. You may also get, like I said, a no contest. Something happens, an interference or something. Especially if the WWE feels that they do not have anyone else that's going to challenge Lesnar the next couple months. And they're going to continue with John Cena being the one to face him. You you got the Hell in a Cell the next pay-per-view. What better way than to allow Lesnar to win, and, you know, he wins the next night on Monday Night Raw. He comes back out and says, you know, I beat John Cena again. You know, yeah, he put on a better match, but I still can't be defeated. And then you get a month of Paul Heyman, John Cena again. You know, I told you what you got to do to beat Lesnar, and hopefully then it might be a better build-up for the Hell in a Cell. You know, if you continue to get Paul Heyman and John Cena's ear about, you know, becoming a bad guy. So my prediction: Lesnar. He brings the pain. It'll be a better match between him and Cena than it was last time, but Lesnar will continue on his winning streak and be the champion at the end of the night.
I totally agree, and I totally understand everything you're saying. I still definitely think Lesnar's winning Sunday, but I think we're going to get that Hell in a Cell match between Cena and Lesnar. And if it's not, I think we're getting Dean Ambrose versus Seth Rollins in a Hell in a Cell, and then Lesnar fighting whomever. Maybe Roman Reigns. And here's my final question, and this may be maybe the most important question in WWE right now. Roman Reigns, on his way to, I wouldn't say supposedly, it's just really just kind of obvious to how the crowd's taken to him, on his way to perhaps being the next John Cena for the next 10 years, X amount of time, if everything goes as planned, and the crowd continues to react to him the way they have, and that keeps building. Here's my question. If you wait till WrestleMania, is the fire gone? If you give him Brock Lesnar and have him win before WrestleMania, is now the time to strike? Do you pull the trigger while the iron is hot, or is he not hot enough? And I mean in the sense of, is he not at that level of John Cena yet where he's just ready to just take those titles and run with them and lead the company? Is now the time, or is WrestleMania the time? And if you wait till WrestleMania, are you going to run out of time? Is he going to cool down by then? I got to know. What do you think?
Well, I look at it like this, and I've said this many times. I believe that you're at a point where you've got a superstar in Roman Reigns that is getting the crowd reaction. He's had a stare down with John Cena and the crowd went nuts. He's had a stare down with Brock Lesnar, the crowd has went nuts. And there was a guy named Ryback who was not given the opportunity when he was hot to basically see if he could carry the company when Cena got injured. I think right now you're maybe 1 or 2 months away from allowing him, Roman Reigns, to play his hand and see where it takes him. If you can't handle it, you've still got a couple months. You've got the Royal Rumble coming up. Why not allow Roman Reigns an opportunity to be champion? I think it works better if he goes over John Cena than if he goes over Brock Lesnar. If Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns is what you're going to be setting up for WrestleMania. You've got the tease of Daniel Bryan coming back. He may be back December, January's Royal Rumble. I think that if he comes back, he'll come back at Royal Rumble. He'll be the surprise entrance.
But won't that hurt Roman Reigns? Because the crowd will want Bryan more than anybody else, right? If Bryan comes back before WrestleMania.
Not if Roman Reigns is champion. Because, here's my thought on that. If they allow, let's say, Brock Lesnar and John Cena to have this match, if I was the one doing the booking, I would allow the Money in the Bank contract would be up for grabs with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins at this pay-per-view. I would have Roman Reigns win that Money in the Bank. I would then have it set up that for some reason John Cena and Brock Lesnar ends in a no contest. And I know a lot of our listeners are probably thinking, what are you saying? I've done wasted my money if that's what's happened. But you've got to look at this long term. It would then set up another match, Hell in a Cell, with John Cena, Brock Lesnar. The intriguing part would then be have Roman Reigns, after Brock Lesnar and John Cena totally destroyed one another, have him come in and cash in the Money in the Bank at Hell in a Cell. Then the next pay-per-view, he would be defending against one of those guys. Then, that way, that next match gives him another month to see if he can hold that title for that full month. They can always say, hey, he didn't beat me fair and squarely. I just got done wrestling Brock Lesnar, or I just got done wrestling John Cena in the craziest Hell in a Cell match there is. This guy comes in and he cashes in and he pins a beat-down opponent. He's got a month for the WWE to see if he can get over as champion. If the WWE Universe doesn't take him as the champion, then that next following pay-per-view, he loses it to whoever he pinned at Hell in a Cell. They could give him a month to see if the crowd is going to react closely to him. If the crowd reacts to him, then at the next pay-per-view, he beats that opponent, makes him even stronger. If Daniel Bryan then comes back and the crowd is going for Daniel Bryan, you've got your match set up. It won't take anything away from Roman Reigns because he's the champion. If anything, it will make it even more intriguing because Daniel Bryan didn't lose the title. Roman Reigns is now your champion. And he can say, hey, I'll give you the opportunity that you didn't have, and we'll do it at WrestleMania. If you win the Royal Rumble, now you've got your match at WrestleMania. So, I mean, it gives them a couple of pay-per-views to allow it. And it makes more sense than for him to come in and beat Brock Lesnar one-on-one in a match that starts from start to finish. Mm-hmm. It's more believable to me that this guy takes the opportunity when these two wrestlers, John Cena and Brock Lesnar, have beat the living hell out of one another. They're laying in the middle of the Hell in a Cell. He comes in and he cashes in on the new champion or on the champion. And now that champion can say, you didn't beat me. You hit me when I was vulnerable. Now I'm challenging you to a match where I'm going to be full strength. And then see that month how that plays out for that whole month. Can he carry the company? And if the crowd is going crazy every time he comes in the arena, and he's getting the pops, then the WWE can say, okay, we can have him be the champion, and we'll have that match, that one-on-one match, and we'll allow him to win because he does have the backing of the WWE Universe, and therefore we don't have to rely on Brock Lesnar or John Cena. Or, if any case, we can make it a triple threat. They can play that and still let him be the champion, even if it's for a month.
Right.
To
test the water.
To test the water. They did it with Edge. It's the same thing with Edge. They said, we don't know if Edge can carry the company, and we don't see Edge beating, I think it was John Cena. Who did Edge carry? Yeah, John Cena. We don't see Edge beating John Cena one-on-one. So what better thing to do than allow Edge to come in and cash that Money in the Bank in on John Cena when he was at his worst? Why not do it again? And the crowd would go nuts because now you've got a third person that took advantage of these two guys who are the basically the heel of the company and the face of the company, and he comes in and he pins whoever it was. He's now the champion. He's got a full month to take and see what he can do with it, and if it's a flawed concept, they can say, okay, that next pay-per-view, he loses. And the reason he loses is because he couldn't beat them one-on-one, and they showed that. Or if the crowd eats him up and they're cheering his name, then they can say, okay, well, this guy can handle it, so at that next pay-per-view when he does fight one-on-one, we'll allow him to go over and prove that he is the better person, and he just showed it. And it makes him look even stronger. And then if
which is what I think.
Back,
right, and if you have Daniel Bryan win the Royal Rumble, then people who were mad about last year, about him not even being in the Royal Rumble, get their payoff this year. You know?
Right, and then you could get the Daniel Bryan Roman Reigns match if Daniel Bryan comes in and they're going nuts for Daniel Bryan, because it's hard to not cheer for the champion, because guess what this guy did? Yeah, I love Daniel Bryan, but Roman Reigns cashed the Money in the Bank in and on Brock Lesnar, and then turned around and beat him the next month, or he cashed it in on Cena and then beat him the next month.
Right.
And now Daniel Bryan's coming back, and who am I going to cheer for? Am I going to cheer for the champion who I've been cheering for the last month, who is basically, has shown that he can do it? Yeah, I'm still going to cheer for him. You're going to have the Roman Reigns people, and you're going to have the Daniel Bryan people. It makes it harder for them to dismiss him when he's the champion than it is to dismiss him when he's trying to be the champion.
Yeah. And I totally get what you're saying, and that leaves open so many possibilities, because if Brock Lesnar gets beat and he doesn't come back, you have the option of putting Paul Heyman for Roman Reigns, and Paul Heyman can talk for Roman Reigns, and he's heel. So, I mean, if the face thing doesn't go over like they thought they did, like they thought it would.
Or you could have Paul Heyman, flip to John Cena.
Yeah.
The perfect Hell in the Cell would be for John Cena, Brock Lesnar. They're going at it, and John Cena sells out. Heyman helps Cena defeat Brock Lesnar, and then Roman Reigns comes in and cashes in on Cena. Now the crowd's going to go nuts for Roman Reigns, because now Cena's with Paul Heyman. Right.
Yeah, that would be something. And there's a lot of options. So that's why I was curious about your viewpoint on it. So as of now, Seth Rollins' Money in the Bank briefcase is not on the line, but hey, it very well could be. And we never know. It could be a stipulation made the day of Night of Champions. It could be a stipulation made at Hell in a Cell or before then. So we'll wait and see. I'll be at Night of Champions. I'll be going with a friend of mine, and so I'm excited about the card. Win, lose, or draw, we'll have fun, and it'll be a good event in Nashville at the Bridgestone Arena. Hey, if you guys are on Facebook, get on Facebook, go to that search bar. At the top of the page, type in RKO, 3 letters there, RKO, You Didn't Know, and you'll see our Facebook group for our podcast. We post links to listen to the podcast, all sorts of wrestling and WWE-related stuff posted on that group. All you have to do is ask to join. We're trying to add a lot of new members and let this page and group grow. And so please check that out. We'll be back in 2 weeks with episode 6, where we'll talk about Night of Champions and everything that's happened between now and then. Russell, any final words before we sign off for episode 5 of our podcast?
I just want to say a couple things. I've enjoyed the last 2 weeks of wrestling. They're getting back to what I like most, and that's the wrestling. They're giving a lot of these mid-carders and the divas a little bit more time on screen. They're not just focusing on the John Cena Brock Lesnar. I think that the MVP right now in wrestling is Paul Heyman. It's kind of crazy that you don't even have to have the champion there to promote the match. So I give kudos to Paul Heyman, and I look forward to hopefully a heel change with John Cena in the near future. And I look forward to this Night of Champions card. I think it's going to be a great pay-per-view, hopefully better than SummerSlam was. And look forward to having you guys listen to our podcast number 6 in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing, check out the NXT TakeOver Fatal 4-Way special event if you can. That just happened last week. It's on the WWE Network. If you don't have the WWE Network, once again, you can get the network for only
$9.99.
That's right. We should work for the company, I swear. All right, great. Thanks for listening. Keep listening, keep downloading, keep subscribing. Check us out on Facebook. That's RKO You Didn't Know. This is a wrestling podcast. This was episode 5. We'll see you in a couple weeks for episode 6. For Russell, this is Kayvon signing off. We'll talk to you soon, and enjoy your wrestling.
Have a good night.
Bye-bye.